Hello, and welcome back to the Lifeboat Live with me, absolutely Arian. And I am so glad to be back on this lifeboat. Let me tell you. If you have been following the series that I had been doing for the last couple of lifeboats, we've been talking about transition. And I've been pretty transparent about just the fact that I am currently going through a lot of, or I have been going through transition in some really harsh ways for the last, for the last 2 3 years, um, and I'm now starting to see a shift of transition, but in like amazing, positive, beautiful ways. Um, and so we talked about the difficulty of transition and how even when it's good transition, it can still be challenging and it comes with its own challenges. Um, um, and I really just appreciate all those who've been reaching out because I have not been as active online lately. I haven't been doing, my quotes and my memes and my little short reels lately, and I promise I will be getting back to all of those things. Like I said, I'm just going through a really there's a lot of things, amazing things that I can't yet talk about publicly. Um, but I promise you, once I feel released to talk about it, we will celebrate on the good things that are happening in my life as well. So with that said, I just want to thank you guys for watching, coming in. Whoever is in this room right now, I would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment. Please, um, you know, engage, like, comment. Let me know where you're watching from. If you are watching on the replay, well, welcome. I am no longer live. However, I always come back and still read and engage with your comments as well. With that said, please hit share, like I said, all that. If you're on my YouTube channel, or please go ahead and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that you're notified every time I go live. Oh, so I got that out the way. Tonight, I'm talking about something that most of us, hopefully in our lives, we evolve in, and that's relationships, specifically friendships, so platonic relationships. Um, and as we mature, as we go through different phases of our lives, we realize the importance of community, the importance of friendship, and not just any kind of friendship, but healthy friendships. And so hopefully, as you go through life, you start to realize that quantity is not better than quality. You now are most likely, as you've gotten older, don't have a huge clique of friends. You don't have a large number of people that you necessarily roll with. You may have a lot of acquaintances. However, you will find that um, you will long for healthier, um, more in depth, and just healthy relationships that you can, have accountability in. Um, Again, this comes as you grow, as you have self reflection, and you even have time to just really realize um, what's important for you. And those, of course, change as you get more emotionally intelligent, as you become, you have your different needs, you grow in certain areas of your life. And so tonight we are talking about friends and accountability, friendships and accountability. Um, and so I can speak for myself and say that I've given permission to a very small handful of people to say whatever they need to say to me, with all honesty. Um, this is a very small group of of people. Like I said, it's very intimate group of people who I trust, and it just means that they can at any time question my behavior, my actions about anything. Um, it may be my lifestyle, my friendships, my devotional life, to say, whatever they need to say to me, obviously in a non-abusive and a healthy, constructive way. Um, and they can do that, because we've had years to create intimacy, and trust. And there's been a significant time that has passed that we've been able to cultivate those things: transparency, trust, and they've proven themselves to be loyal, to have a measure of loyalty and just wisdom and be well intentioned. And so I personally value honesty and constructive feedback from people that I know are well intentioned and looking out for me. This is not, and if I'm going to be very transparent, which, this is what the lifeboat is about. It's about teaching life lessons, things that I've learned along my life's journey. If I could be fully transparent, I haven't always uh, been the best at receiving criticism. It was not always a strength of mine. It wasn't always something that I was able to do in a healthy way. Um, but with growth, eventually you're able to realize, you know, what what people's true intentions are and why you can glean from their wisdom, right? So, but before we even talk about accountability, I just want to talk about what quality friendships look like, right? Because you cannot have accountability without, first of all, having healthy relationships and friendships, and being able to tell them the truth, right? And so, and receive the truth. So, you can be honest and tell them about themselves without being brutal and abusive. uh, you have to be able to have cultivated trust and able to tell people sometimes the raw truth about themselves. Um, but you also have to have the ability to tell your friends, when they've done wrong, when they're doing something that that you're observing that they're not living their best life in terms of in a healthy way. If you've observed behaviors that that mean that they're going towards a path that they shouldn't be going towards, there needs to be you need to be able to say these things. But and good friends value honesty and feedback. And when you have relationship and you've built trust over the years, um, it's easier to be honest, right? It's easier to tell people the truth about what you think, because not only are you confident in the fact that they understand that you have their best intention at heart most of the times, they are also confident in the fact that you have their best intentions at heart, and therefore there can be healthy dialogue about um, the truth, and you're able to talk and kind of have discourse going back and forth about how you feel about a certain situation without being hurtful. And so even I have trouble with the term being brutally honest. You don't have to be honesty doesn't need to be brutal. Honesty doesn't need to be brutal. And matter of fact, being brutal with honesty is not loving. It's not friendship. It's not kind. It's tumultuous. It's it's not healthy. And I can say that for myself that there was a time where I was not very good with my delivery, although my intention was to see people who I cared about smart enough and make wiser decisions, and stop going back to whether it be their toxic relationships, dealing with people who were taking advantage of them. And in my younger days, and I'm talking about my younger days, high school and even college, there were times that I was very harsh um and lacked grace in the way in my delivery and how I spoke to people, especially if I had felt like I had told you one, two, three too many times about the behavior that I was observing, or the cycle that I was observing. I would get frustrated, and so I would get frustrated because of how I felt cared about that person, and I was seeing them do something destructive, and instead of being um, you know thoughtful and intentional about my words, I was very harsh, and I could be very tactless, and impatient with my delivery, which was not which was uncalled for, which was we kind of, some of us glory we have glory and we find like pride in being brutally honest and being direct and being rude. You know what I mean? And you don't have to necessarily be rude to get your point across. Now, this is easier said than done because, there are times where I know even right now I still get frustrated with certain people in my life, and and anger and emotion takes over me and I don't always say the right things. Um, but I try to always be self-reflective and think about those things and have and and use opportunities to make better decisions next time. When they arise. But so yeah, so you can't speak truth without having you can speak truth without being abusive with it. Um, and that cultivates intimacy when you can tell somebody and speak to their situation in an honest way without being um, violent with your words. Um, that is another way of creating and curating healthy friendships, right? So another I would say factor that's important in creating or recognizing healthy friendships would be the fact that we do not compete with one another. And what I mean by that is, if you find that every time you say A, they have to say, well, A, B, C, D with me, that can be a problem, you know? And healthy friendships, you ought to be happy for each other's accomplishment and genuinely happy for each other's accomplishments and cheer each other on in whatever victories that each other are experiencing in each other's lot and in your individual lives. And so feeling like your friend is somehow one upping you or constantly trying to outdo you is a sign of a very unhealthy, unbalanced, and maybe even insecure in some ways um, friendship. It's not built on solid ground. Um, and so I know that I've experienced this in a friendship at some point in my life. And a lot of these things I'm referencing to are in my much younger days. And I'm talking about, before we were, you know, I'm talking about teenage, a lot of them is teenager or even early 20s, where, I found that I had a friend that I didn't realize at the time was competing with everything I did. And it wasn't until one day I remember, um, you know, she may have been quite insecure about her own life and her own feelings about herself and how she, her physical appearance. And we were leaving a party together. And I remember one time, um, as we were walking out, a young man decided to come up to talk to me, and he paid me a compliment. And at the time, I was definitely a lot more active, and I, hadn't been to the gym in a while. But because I was an athlete my whole life, I had a kind of physique that would be that one of an athlete, and so I had started to kind of go back to the gym and it wasn't very long, maybe just a couple of weeks or so. And the young man asked me if I'd go to the gym, and I said, he said, "Do you go to the gym because like you look really fit?" And and I said, "Well, yes, as a matter of fact, I do." And before I could even finish my sentence, my supposed friend turned around and was like, "Relax, you just started going to the gym just the other day. Like, don't act like you've been in the gym, right?" And she wasn't even a part of the conversation. She overheard what was happening, and it wasn't the first time that I had experienced this kind of reaction to somebody else praising me and not her. And I realized, maybe too late that there was an element and a spirit of competition and comparison, and it spoke more to just things that she was battling within herself, and she may not have even realized at the time that she was acting out, and, and so that is when you see little, and and sometimes it's not even as blunt and as serious as that. Sometimes it's just little jokes and those little kikis, and and I'm not saying that you can't make fun and poke fun and banter with your friends, but there are certain jokes that when you see that there's a pattern to them, and they're always kind of like little digs and demeaning and kind of minimizing your accomplishments or minimizing things about who you are, or trying to downplay you all the time. Those are red flags for unhealthy and competitive friendships, which again are not is not a healthy foundation, right? To give another one, just one more about what healthier friendships look like, right? Um, it should be a place of no judgment, right? And I don't mean no judgment as that they can't tell you nothing and they can't point out things. No judgment just means um that instead of being um turned off and cringe and acting like everything's so cringe about what you're doing, you can validate each other. So if something isn't okay with your friend, if they're doing something that is really kind of unsavory for whatever whatever reason, and they're pouring out to you and being transparent about it, like, don't start calling them names. Don't start acting like they're so cringy and making faces at what they're saying, or about their mistakes, or their embarrassing stories, or making insensitive comments about what they're sharing. Like, be a listening ear, right? Because friends don't intentionally try to hurt friends. um, Good friends are supportive, and they make sure that their friends know that whatever they're doing or going through, that they will be there for them. You may not always agree with what they're doing, right? And you can state that you don't agree with what they're doing, and that you think that they are living beneath who they actually are, and and you can even make suggestions on how they can get help, or or how you can help them. um, but friendship should be a safe space to be transparent about your cringe moments, about your hard moments, about your embarrassing moments. And I just thank God that I've had relationships like this in my life, where I've been able to be transparent about how I felt, how I about what I was experiencing. Um, and sometimes I've been in some real precarious situations that were, that I would not want to necessarily, I just thank God that in this day and age where everybody puts all your mistakes on social media, that, I kind of had time to mature and grow before social media became a massive thing. Um, but, um, I thank God for having safe spaces uh, in friendships to be able to speak on some of my darkest moments, some of my most embarrassing, my the decision, going through bad decisions and being able to mature and grow through them without being humiliated and exposed. Um, and that's rare. It's very hard to find genuine, trustworthy, and wise people who are able uh, to love you through your dysfunction, right? And so those are some of the characteristics of healthy friendships. Of course, there are many more, and we can go on forever. But I don't plan to be here all night and holding you. This is just meant to be uplifting, encouraging, and informative. So, um, so now that we've kind of given a few traits that you should be looking for in healthy friendships, and those are just three that I've given. Let's talk a little bit about accountability, because again, that is the topic of tonight. Um, you know, and I kind of hinted at it a little earlier, but I said that, like, I wasn't always good at accountability, and I mean I wasn't good at either receiving it or giving it. Accountability, there was a time in my life where criticism to me was um, received like I was being punished or I was being judged. There was a time that it was hard to receive constructive criticism. No matter how you said it, I had a reason, an excuse as to why um, I did what I did. I felt the need to explain myself rather than listen and glean from the wisdom. There was a time when um, accountability felt like pain. It felt like you were trying to hurt me, telling me the truth. Um, you know, and so I could become very defensive. Um, and so there was a time where all this was very much true about how I received people trying to uh, you know to be an accountability partner. Um, and then there were also times where I wasn't really great at being the accountability partner. You know, there was a time, like I kind of alluded to earlier, that I spoke in my younger I spoke as a child, right? I wasn't necessarily good at being diplomatic. My emotional intelligence wasn't um, quite where it is now. Not to say that I am the most emotionally intelligent person, because I've still got ways to go. There's still areas in which I can develop and grow. There are still times where I allow my emotions to get the best of me. There are still times where I get angry and lash out. Um, but I think that I try to be conscious and aware. I try to be quicker at recovery every time. I may slip, but I'm at a place in my life where consistency, um, or not consistency, but consciousness, um, and becoming competent at being um, emotionally healthy is important. Um, so one second here. Mm, All right. So, there was a time where I wasn't as diplomatic. I wouldn't tell, I wasn't able to tell the truth with tact, right? There was a time where I would also do do nothing, say nothing, and watch certain friends, do foolishness and not speak up. Either out of fear of not being received, out of fear of not being able to, just not feeling like I my thoughts were appreciated. Um, or also just dealing with someone who I know was not receptive and not able to receive criticism, because they weren't maybe as mature as I maybe had grown to be. Um, uh, but life experience, self reflection, and maturity set in at some point, and I was able to see the value and healthy accountability both ways. You know, um, and so with that said, I just want to talk about in James 5:16, it says, confess your trespasses to one another and pray for one another that you may be healed, right? And so that speaks to having a safe space to talk about and pour out, right? It's a necessity for everybody to have um, someone that they can be accountable to, and somebody that they can be honest with, and that somebody else can be honest back with you, and have partnership in that way. I've realized, I've just, as I've grown in my own journey, realized how important and how essential it is to my life to have healthy sounding boards, people who can use wisdom, their spirituality, their life journey and lessons, and just their wisdom and discernment to speak to me about what they are seeing uh, me go through, or what I'm experiencing. Also, I just also appreciate that kind of feedback from people that not only have wisdom, but also who have spent time to understand me. I don't, when it feels good when you don't have to explain your intentions to somebody, because they already know who you are, and understand your the way you think, they understand your heart, and they understand your intentions. You don't have to over explain, you don't have to feel misunderstood, because you know that that person understands your heart. Um, and so, you know, having someone that you can confess both to one another your trespasses, it's so it's so transformative. It's so healthy. It's just so it's so essential to being able to grow in your day to day. Um, and so love, in order for there to be honesty, accountability, there has to be love. And it's not always easy to receive raw, like I said, it's not always easy to receive raw and honest criticism. And it's even harder when you don't know or trust the motive behind the delivery or the deliverer of the feedback, right? Um, when you know that this person loves you, and that, you know, and that, you know, a lot of the times when you are going through, you know, rough times, they're able to speak life back into you. Um, when you've reached a level of maturity that you can receive and accept and self-reflect on what this person's trying to tell you, um, you will then understand the necessity of building relationship before you can rebuke someone. You know, you cannot rebuke without relationship, without there being proof of love in the way that you handle that person. And that's why I go back again to this whole thing about brutal honesty. Brutal honesty is not love. Nothing that's brutal is ever going to be love. If your tongue is sharp, you know, if you're not able to bridle your tongue when when you know, and not speak um like your tongue is a sword, then don't say anything, because that's not love. You know, um when you're developing friendships and accountability, it's important to do that with people who are wise, right? Because he who walks with wise men will be wise, right? But the companion of fools will be destroyed. And what that really means is that when you are surround yourself with people who are wise, who have experience, who have discernment, who have knowledge, um, those things will eventually rub off on you if you're receptive, right? But if you walk with people who are foolish and destructive and unproductive, well, you will become just as destructive, unproductive, and foolish, right? But what this means too is that in order to have accountability, you have to be willing to listen, right? It does not matter how many times someone tells you to do something. If you don't want to be kept accountable, then you're not going to do it, you know? And a lot of times I really hear people talking about, you know, they wish that they had these long, deep, last long, lifelong friendships with people, but I think you'd be surprised at how many opportunities you've probably forfeited, or that you have right in your front door, that you could grow with the people that are already around you. Sometimes that they're around you, whether they be the, you know, the elders, or people who just have way more life experience than you, um, and who, you know, who have been able to evolve in their lives. If you listen to their wisdom that they're offering you, you would find that you would have um, a healthier and a better uh, perspective on life, right? Because they're equipping you with tools to go forward, right? Um, and so it's just important to be able to have and to have the level of maturity to receive account, you know, to be accountable, and and to have account and to be accountable to others, um, and to do it in a way that's healthy, um, that's loving, and that's wise. You know, and this is something that I've had to, curate in my own life and to be conscious of and to be intentional about, because I haven't always been so mindful and intentional about the way I communicate. Um, it's something that I've had to work on for a very long time, um, and so I find that in my friendships, I I'm at a place that, especially when I've built a level of intimacy and trust, and I realize that you have wisdom that you can share. Um, I am so receptive and open, especially when I feel like you understand me, when I feel like you know who I am, and then that's when I'm very much willing. You can say any just about anything to me at that point, because I know your heart and your true intention, right? So all that to say that a real friendship of accountability means that you have to be able to lower your walls, right? You have to be able to let people in. You have to be able to lay down your pride, and let someone else who loves you and cares for you and deeply want to see you go further than where you are point out your flaws. You have to have them point out your flaws. You have to help them point out when you say things that may not be, you know, the best, or when you do things that may not be the best, or when you're about to make decisions that may not be um, great for you at this point in your life. Sometimes people could see things. They have a better perspective when they're not right, when they don't have their nose against the wood or their nose against a tree. Because when you have your nose up against a tree, you don't see the forest and ahead of you, but the person standing a few feet back can tell you, hey, they have a different perspective, and they're able to see, and give you a word of encouragement and wisdom. So accountability is not cruelty, right? But it's to help you be a better person and be more equipped to fight the good fight, and to move from glory to glory, and from and to have wisdom as you go through life. And so, with that said, that is all for tonight. Listen, I've done 33 minutes, and I am proud of myself tonight, because, as I had forementioned at the beginning of this video, it has been a whirlwind of excitement and transition that's going on right now. And I have to say that it's become more and more difficult to get on here every Thursday. But I'm committed to the cause. I'm committed to the lifeboat. I'm committed to sharing my life lessons along life's journey, so that we can all glean from one another's experiences. And, for those who may be going through it, can take wisdom from what I'm talking about and what some of my guests are talking about, and make better decisions, and realize that if they're in it, they can get out. If they've been through it, they're not alone. Um, and so, with that said, I hope you enjoyed this life boat live tonight, and the life lessons that I've shared with you. If you have, please don't forget to share, like, subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Lifeboat with Absolutely Arian. Go ahead and hit the notification bell for um, the notification bell for sorry, for the notifications, of course. Oh, I'm starting to shut down. And so, um, I appreciate you, and I really hope that if you're watching on the replay, that you just let me know what you thought. So you guys have a great night, and we will be back every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, with another lifeboat lesson, and more lessons I've learned along life's journey. So until then, I hope that you stay blessed, and that you stay safe. So have a great night, and we will, resume again next week.